Built on the bones of the original Godzilla that was killed by the oxygen destroyer, Mechagodzilla III, also known as Kiryu, was built to battle the original King of the Monsters' offspring, the Godzilla of the Millennium Era. A technological marvel meant to bring down the great beast of Tokyo, the humans that created him found out there was a ghost in the machine when the memories of the original Godzilla returned and took control of his new mechanical body. Hi everyone, I'm Mac, and this is Bandai's Mechagodzilla III. Everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. We have some more Kaiju for you today, getting ready for the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. What we have today is this, Mechagodzilla III, also known as Kiryu. Mechagodzilla III was built literally on the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla. According to the movie canon, they were trying to find some way to combat the current Godzilla that was stomping around Tokyo, so they pulled the bones from the bottom of the ocean and they used that as a framework to build Mechagodzilla III. Now, this was done from the Millennium Era, which was the same era as the Godzilla that we looked at before, which was the Final Wars Godzilla. This, even though it's called Mechagodzilla III, in the continuity of this movie, I don't think either of the previous two Mechagodzillas existed. This was the first one that was created in this continuity. There are numerous different continuities for Godzilla. I don't know how many of you know that, but there are at least three, maybe four. No, I think it's three different sets of continuity in the Japanese movies alone, not counting animated series, not counting Shin Godzilla, and not counting Godzilla Earth. Which, Godzilla Earth, the Netflix anime, actually gave us the fourth Mechagodzilla, and we might be getting a fifth one. Because, and I stay away from hard spoilers for movies that I'm excited to watch, so I don't know this for sure, but there is rumor that there is going to be a Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong, which I'm very interested in if there is, because I was expecting more of like a Mecha Ghidorah, because the bad guy, dude, I can't remember his name, bought Ghidorah's head in the stinger at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters, so I was expecting to see that. Wasn't expecting a Mechagodzilla, but I'm very curious to see if he shows up and what form he's going to take, because none of the Mechagodzillas look the same. The first two arguably resemble each other, but Kiryu here is a huge departure, and even what you see here, I have what I had called the 12-inch scale model, and we have a standard 8-inch scale vinyl from Bandai, and even between the two of these, you can see that there is some difference. It's the same figure, it's the same mecha, but this one is more in battle mode, this one is more of a stripped down mode, and we'll take a look at that once we get everything out of the packaging. Now, as far as the packaging goes, you can see that this, just like Godzilla Final Wars that we were looking at, is basically just an oversized version of Bandai's US packaging, where it's basically just a big cardboard tray that the figure is zip-tied to. What we have over here is actually something that I couldn't find in the States. I imported this from Japan, and you can see as far as packaging goes, there's not much to it except this little loop that would hang on a peg, and you have this little card right here. You can see it says 2018 Mechagodzilla 2004. Inside, there is very little, if any, English at all, except for our Mechagodzilla trademark logo up here. And then on the back, it just says movie monster series. See that? And then Bandai and Toho. But other than that, there's very little English on this, so I don't know at all what is said inside here. If anybody reads Japanese, go ahead and pause the video and let me know if you can make any of this out. So I find that very interesting, that the difference between the American and the US packaging. And speaking of the packaging, let's stop looking at them this way, let's get them out of their packaging, and we will take a look at Bandai Mechagodzilla III Kiryu. Alright friends, here they are, Mechagodzilla 3, both of them out of their packaging, such as it was for this little guy. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the tape measure to them. We're going to see what the size difference is between these two guys. So let's bring the smaller one forward. We'll put the tape measure to him, and we can see that he is just under, I thought these were like 7 or 8 inch figures. This one is just under 6. No, he's right at 6.5 inches tall. So he has a 6-inch scale right there. And this guy, he comes in at, he is at the top of his spike right here. He is 12 inches tall. So he's a little bit bigger. He's about 1.5 inches bigger than the Godzilla we looked at last week. Now, what I love about these guys is they definitely went in more on the sculpt with both of these rather than articulation. There is very limited articulation. The legs don't move. Each one of them has the same articulation. They just have 3 points of articulation. That this one, the head moves, but you can't really do a 360 turn because his mechanical spikes get in the way right there. He has his shoulders that'll rotate. He can do full 360 with the shoulders. He has tail articulation right here, but that doesn't really do much because unlike the Godzilla, he only has 1 point of articulation in the tail, but the tail really just spins and it just doesn't look right. And as I was playing around with him just now, I think, oh wow, yeah, he has some torso twist. It's very tight, but his torso does turn, which is something that you don't see often with the Bandai figures. But when you do twist him, you can see that he's rising up a little bit. That I'm not sure that's supposed to be a point of articulation, and I think that's just where two pieces were molded together, where two pieces pop together. So you can get some twist out of it, but I'm not entirely sure that's supposed to happen. And just like his big brother, the little guy here, his head turns, but it does do a full 360 because his point of pivot is higher up on the neck rather than at the base. He has shoulders, but he can't do a 360 spin with the shoulders because his rocket pack gets in the way. And like the big guy, he also has this tail twist. Now, both of these are vinyl figures. They're not plastic, which means they have some really great detail work in their mold, in their sculpt. And these guys, these two are just beautiful to look at. With the 12-inch, we have so much detail in the cabling, in his hips. You can see the detail in his mouth where he has all of those metal teeth. The spines down his back. Everything looks great. One of the things that I really like, one of the details that I really like is up here in the head. They have those red lines that are coming down the cheeks. That's because in the movie, when Godzilla roared, it awoke the ghost in the machine. It awoke the ghost of the original Godzilla inside Kiryu. And when a physical manifestation of Godzilla taking over the mechanical body was the eyes turned red. So whenever the eyes went from yellow to red, it looked like he was crying like bloody tears, according to the director. If you're interested in knowing any more about Kiryu, about Mechagodzilla 3, and he is definitely one of the more interesting creatures to come out of Godzilla lore, there will be a link down below to Wikizilla that'll tell you all about Mechagodzilla 3, the 2 movies he was in, and his story arc. And it's really good, it's really interesting. I highly recommend taking a look at it. Also, I'm going to put a link to Death Battle down below, because I think it was last year, they did a really great death battle between Mechagodzilla 3 and the Dragon Zord. That's definitely taking a look at too, if you're a fan of Godzilla or the Power Rangers. Now, if we take a look here, you can see that there is a very much a physical difference between the sculpt of the 6-inch figure and a sculpt of the 12-inch figure. The 6-inch figure is more in his battle mode. On his arms, we have his twin railguns that he's outfitted with, and on his back is his backpack that doubles, well, it pulls triple duty actually. It works as a jetpack. It has these 2 twin missile launchers on his shoulders. These missile launchers, I believe, can launch off as individual ram weapons themselves. Plus, he can bend over and launch the entire jetpack as a weapon in and of itself. So he is outfitted with some heavy artillery. The 12-inch version is the more stripped down version, that this is him post full battle mode. And I really like that they did that with the bigger guy, because it really gives you a better view at the sculpt, at his detail, at just everything that makes Mechagodzilla 3 really, really cool. I even like that they were very sparse with the paint app, that there's just some black in the cabling near his hips and his ankles. There are some red triangles painted on him, and then some paint up in the face, and that's it. Everything else is just this beautiful reflective silver, and I really hope that's coming through on camera, that you can get a look at how reflective these two actually are. The smaller one is more limited on the paint detail. He has the paint in the hips and the ankles. He has the red triangles on the knees, but then the only other paint app, it looks like, would be the yellow eyes. He doesn't have the red lines coming down the sides of his face like his bigger brother does. Mechagodzilla 3 is armed with something that was called an absolute zero cannon, which is technically, physically, an impossible weapon, but when we're talking about 60-foot tall, 100-foot tall kaiju, who cares? That you can see the hinge points right here on his chest, that this would open up and the cannon would take up the majority of his chest, and it had the ability of bringing something down to absolute zero and just sucking all of the energy out of it. Like I said, physics, impossible, but it's Godzilla and it's awesome. I really recommend taking a look at that Wikizilla video to find out more about him. So that is our look at Mechagodzilla 3. That is our look at Kiryu. I really hope you enjoyed this. He is definitely one of my favorite monsters from any of the Godzilla eras. I love his backstory. I love his lore. I love the idea that he was built off of the bones of the original Godzilla. I love the idea that in this form, the original Godzilla lives again and is given a second chance at terrorizing Tokyo. So, we will wait and see if we get a Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong. So until we know that, play well everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.